I want to welcome you back to our Hero Maker series, where we're talking about the 5 essential practices of a leader who multiplies leader. And this first hero making practice is what we call multiplication thinking. And sometimes with larger groups, I'll actually have them point to their head like this. Kind of go ahead and point to your head because it's a shift in how you think. This first one is really shift how you think. Instead of thinking that the best way for me to maximize my ministry is through my own leadership, instead, you begin to understand, you start to think, no. The best way for me to maximize my ministry is through multiplying and developing other leaders. I remember as a young leader kind of thinking, you know what, I had a really big vision for my church. And notice I said my church. It's so brutal. I thought if I could just lead a church of 1,000 people, that would be so awesome, 1,000 people. And I remember a senior leader was in a workshop, and he said, what I want you to do is I want you to take your dream right now, and then I want you to multiply it times 1,000,000. And then what do you get? So I took that, okay, I got 1,000 people times 1,000,000. That's 1 billion. And all of a sudden started messing with my brain. He said, now I want you to figure out how can you do that? And I was going, 1 billion? And all of a sudden, 1 billion, I couldn't do that. My church couldn't do that. Even if I started a whole network, a whole denomination, couldn't do that. And all of a sudden, I began to realize what I'm going to need to partner with lots of people, but I'm going to have to work through leaders, through tens of leaders, hundreds of leaders, thousands of leaders, tens of thousands of leaders, maybe even to accomplish that. And what it did is it forced me to begin to think with multiplication thinking. It wasn't long after that I began to scratch out a dream on the back of a napkin. It kind of looked something like this. For how I would reproduce churches. This is kind of Chicago, and how we reproduce churches all over Chicagoland and in the city and the suburbs. Today, we have multiple sites all across the city and suburbs of Chicago, and through our New Thing network, we now have just north of 1,300 churches, both nationally and internationally, that are part of New Thing. And a big part of that, I think, came as a result of this first practice of multiplication thinking. Now, while this term hero maker, it may be kind of a new term that we're introducing to the leadership genre, it's definitely a part of an ancient truth that we see lived out in the life of Jesus. I think in some ways, if I handed Jesus this napkin, I said, hey, Jesus on the back, on the other side, give us your dream. What's your dream? I think what he'd scratch out on the back of this napkin, I think he'd write out the words of Acts 1:8. I think he'd say, you know what? You're going to receive power when the Spirit comes on you, and you're going to be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Jesus didn't think that the mission was just going to happen through him, but it would happen through others, who would equip others, who would still equip others. He was applying, and you can see it in Acts 1:8, multiplication thinking. And this multiplication thinking is often catalyzed by a compelling cause, what you have like in Acts 1:8, or a great battle, or a bigger dream. I remember I had the opportunity to meet with Millard Fuller. I don't know if that name means anything to you or not, but he was the founder of Habitat for Humanity. And I was down in Americus, Georgia, in his office, sitting across the desk from him. And I remember him looking me in the eye and saying this. He said, Dave, don't you think everybody deserves a simple, decent place to live? And just the way he said it with such conviction, like, don't you think everybody deserves a simple, decent place to live? It was like an adrenaline rush just kind of went through my body. It was like, yeah, absolutely. That's so true. But I had no idea how to do it. And that compelling cause, that grander vision, that bigger dream, what it did, it compelled Millard Fuller to say, you know what? I can't do this on my own. Even as a successful business person, one construction company could not do that on its own, make sure everybody has a simple, decent place to live. He knew he had to work through multiplied leadership of volunteer leaders who'd come together to build homes. And that's exactly what he did. And today, Habitat for Humanity is the largest home builder in the world. And a big part of that is because of multiplication thinking. Maybe the best example that we actually have of a level 5 church, this multiplying church in North America, is Hope Chapel, led by Ralph Moore. And a big part of the reason is because early on as a young leader, Ralph began to dream big and knew it only happened through multiplication thinking. And Ralph is such a great reminder. If any of you know him or ever get a chance to know him, you need to, because he's a super humble guy, very laid back, not a charismatic, dynamic platform kind of leader. He's a guy, he's written books about how he struggles with anxiety. So in many ways, when I see Ralph, I'm going like, man, if God can use Ralph, I think he'd use a whole bunch of us. Because Ralph has now helped to plant more than 2,300 churches and still counting. How did it happen? Through multiplication thinking and him making a decision, I'm not going to be the hero, but I'm going to make heroes of at least 2,300 other church planters. Let me give you a simple tool for multiplication thinking. I call this napkin, it is a napkin, I call it a dream napkin, a little hokey, but I like it. And you know what you could do? Just get a napkin. Just get a napkin like this and write out your dream. Just grab one, maybe if you're at home or if you're at a coffee shop, watch this on a laptop, if you're with a team, put it on pause and go just get a napkin and then write out. You can use symbols or words or graphics, numbers, whatever it is. So that's the first one. And after you do that, I want you to take that and I want you to multiply it. I won't push you to 1,000,000, but times 100. Take that first dream and then multiply it times 100 and say, okay, now how can I do that? And force yourself to a place where you're going, you know what, I can't do that through my leadership or even just my church. It's going to take me working through leader after leader after leader after leader. And then the last thing is take this napkin and hang on to it. Try to visualize what it would take to make that happen. Pray. Ask God to use you to do this. And if you're courageous, share with a few other friends. Get their input on this. I'm telling you, the first step, okay, towards being a hero maker is multiplication thinking. All right? Come back and we're going to talk about the second practice of what it takes to be a hero maker. Thanks.